I will discuss what is commonly known as the Chinese room argument against the feasibility of synthetic consciousness. The argument was first proposed by Professor John Searle, an American philosopher, in an article titled Minds, Brains, and Programs, published in Behavioral and Brain Science in 1980. The mind experiment on which the argument rests is still extensively discussed in countless articles and symposia. The Chinese room argument holds that a program cannot give a computer a mind, understanding, or consciousness, regardless of how intelligently or human-like the program may make the computer behave. The centerpiece of Professor Searle's argument is a thought experiment known as the Chinese room. The thought experiment begins with a hypothetical premise. Suppose that artificial intelligence research has constructed a computer that behaves as if it understands Chinese. It takes Chinese characters as input and, by following the instructions of a computer program, produces other Chinese characters which it presents as output. Suppose, says Searle, that this computer performs its task so convincingly that it convinces a human Chinese speaker that the program is itself a live Chinese speaker that understands Chinese. The question Professor Searle asks is, does the machine literally understand Chinese? This is what he calls strong AI. Or is it merely simulating the ability to understand Chinese? What he refers to as weak AI. To answer, he places himself, figuratively, in a closed room holding an English version of the program. He receives Chinese characters through a slot in the door, processes them according to the program's instructions, and produces Chinese characters as output. He then observes that if the computer executing the program has convinced a Chinese speaker that it can understand Chinese, he would do so as well, even though he does not understand or speak any Chinese. He argues that, similarly, a program consists of thousands of processes that simply receive, process, and output symbols without understanding or intentionality. So, he argues, we cannot describe what the machine is doing as thinking, and it does not have a mind in anything like the normal sense of the word. Therefore, he concludes that strong AI, the conjecture that the machine can have understanding and consciousness, is false. This summarizes the Chinese room argument. As I stated, you can easily find references to it on the internet. My position is this. John Searle's Chinese room argument against the feasibility of machine consciousness is a variant of Zeno's paradox applied to cognition. Zeno of Elea, a pre-Socratic philosopher who used a particular type of argument to produce paradoxes that contradicted observed events. His most famous paradox, also known as Zeno's paradox, asserts that in a race between Achilles and a turtle, if the turtle has a head start, then Achilles can never overtake it, since the pursuer must first reach the original point when the pursuit started, so that the slower must always hold a lead. For example, if Achilles allows the turtle a head start of 100 meters, then, when he will have run those 100 meters, the turtle will be in front by 10 meters. After the 10 meters, it will still be in front by 1 meter, and so on. Whenever Achilles reaches somewhere the turtle has been, he still has further to go. Therefore, according to Zeno, Achilles can never overtake the turtle. This is Zeno's paradox. It's called a paradox, by the way, because human racers can and do overtake turtles when they race against them, even when the turtles have a head start. Otherwise, if it did not contradict an observed event, it would not be called a paradox, but an argument. To produce his paradox, Zeno followed a specific strategy that can be described as follows. Given a situation and a linked event that is either observed or hypothesized, partition the situation in such a way that none of the partition components contains the event that was hypothesized or observed. In the case of Zeno's discussion of the race between Achilles and the turtle, the event in question is the overtaking or passing of the slower runner by the faster one. Here, Zeno's method partitions distance in such a way that the overtaking event is not found in any of the partitioned components. This is what Professor Searle does in the Chinese room argument, but this time with respect to cognition. By mentally placing himself in the Chinese room as an organic processor that does not understand Chinese, and describing himself as carrying out the stepwise symbol manipulations of the program. Doing this, he effectively partitions the dialogue situation into components that consist only of symbol or value manipulations. He then concludes that since the event of understanding Chinese is not present in any of these components, it cannot exist in the overall situation either. In other words, since none of the individual routines or steps is conscious, since they are only symbol or value manipulations, then the collective dynamic behavior of the whole cannot be conscious either. To conclude, John Searle's Chinese room argument against machine consciousness is a variant of Zeno's paradox applied to cognition. Serious about building the first generation of conscious machines? Then, don't waste your time, just disregard it. I am Jean Tardy. Thank you.